Welcome back to Roanoke County Business Partners. We're in the South County Library, and joining me now is Roanoke County Chief of Police, Howard Hall. Chief, great to have you on the program.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Well, I hate to ask the obvious, but I'm going to start. We have been doing violence in the workplace workshops. We finished 2 out of 3. It's from the Active Shooter series. And the obvious is, why is this important for us to be joining forces and doing this in the community?
Well, unfortunately, active shooter is a reality.
Yes, it is.
It's not confined to large cities or any place in particular. They can happen anywhere.
Yes.
So our initiative around trying to keep people in the Roanoke Valley safe has been to work with, in this case, the business community to help them think through and prepare for an incident if it were to occur here.
Right. And the statistics were really surprising to me that showed that it happens more in the business community.
It does. The incidents that get the most media tend to be around schools.
Of course.
But the FBI released some numbers at the end of last year that included the year 2000 through the year 2013, and it was right around 160 total incidents during that period of time. 45% of them were in commercial types of locations, so businesses, stores, that type of thing, where only about 25% of them were actually in schools.
That's a surprising statistic, but I think it just pulls on our heartstrings so much when it happens in a school that we probably focus on that a little bit more.
Right, I think you're right, and I think you also need to think about the types of situations that can lead to an active shooter. Of course, the ones that make the news the most are someone going into a school, acts of terrorism, whether it be localized or international terrorism. But this can also occur around a disgruntled customer that has some sort of dispute or axe to grind with somebody and goes in. It can result from an employee situation, perhaps a terminated employee who has a grudge, or even a domestic violence situation where someone in the workplace, in the business, is involved in a bad domestic situation and the aggressor knows where they work. That provides them with access to that potential victim. So all those things contribute to those total numbers.
The domestic violence, you don't think about that. I mean, when you hear it on the news, it makes sense because somebody went in after a spouse or something, but you don't think about that being the cause of what would happen in the business community. So with you training the business community, it really makes a difference. What you're teaching these businesses, they can use in every facet of life, can't they?
Right, we really want them to have an understanding of the scenarios that can occur, some things that they can do to prepare and hopefully prevent an incident from occurring. And then, of course, if an unfortunate incident occurs and they do have to deal with it, to have some plans for what to do and to understand what we're going to do in terms of a police response.
Exactly. Well, where do you see this kind of training going in the community in the future?
Well, to some degree, it depends on demand. This was something that
we had a great demand. I was floored. I was absolutely floored.
The turnout has been great. They've come from around the valley, so it hasn't been just a Roanoke County response. I think what we have to do once we get through the series is take a look at how it went, try to get a sense for what the demand is. There's certainly potential to involve the other law enforcement agencies in the region to help with this. I'm pretty certain that they'd be interested in doing that for their communities as well.
Exactly.
And then the real bottom line is, particularly from the business perspective, trying to help our business community be successful and keep their employees and their customers safe, while they're at work and while they're doing their shopping and carrying out their day-to-day business.
I like that, and that's a wonderful wrap-up. Thank you for doing that, because economic development has been very honored to be part of this. We thank the police department for being our partner on this, because it not only makes everybody safer, but it also strengthens the ties between the business community and local government, and it also does a lot to increase the two-way communication. So those are goals of our program. We appreciate that, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Okay. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to South County. We are now talking to Sergeant Chris Kuiper with the Roanoke County Police Force. Chris, thank you for being here today.
Thank
And
you
I
for having
also
me.
want to thank you for being such an integral part of this workshop. Referring to the Violence in the Workplace workshops, it's part of the Active Shooter series.
Yes.
How did you get the idea to do an active shooter series?
Sure.
Where did it come from?
We, as active shooter instructors
Okay.
for Roanoke County Police Department, we're all SWAT trained. We're either former SWAT officers or current SWAT officers. And what had happened was we trained and trained and trained for this type of event to occur. Now, what happens is we thought about, well, what happens about the civilians that are caught in these type of situations? How do we protect them?
Right.
So we came up with this program.
It was
to assist
perfect.
them.
I mean, it was absolutely perfect because as I was talking to Chief Hall earlier, it helps economic development fulfill
Yes.
so many goals by, providing assistance to the business community, increasing communication, and you've done that. And not only are you training them as business people, you're taking that a lot farther.
Yes, we are actually bringing in businesses, thankfully with your help, and teaching them how to deal with workplace violence issues as well as active shooter issues. And we teach them a certain protocol that would help keep them more safe if that situation ever occurs in their place of business.
And they could use it here in the library,
Absolutely.
at home, in the
Yes.
shopping center.
Yes.
It's great training all the way around.
Yeah, these type of strategies can work anywhere, whether you're with your family, at a ballpark, at a shopping mall, or at work, or anywhere.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. I think the backbone of the workshop has been trying to get everybody to either take the emergency action plan they have now
Yes.
and bring it up to another level, or to start from scratch and create one. And you've developed several PowerPoint presentations, and you've really been walking people through step by step. What are the basics of emergency action plan?
Well, what we want people to do, businesses to do, is look at their business specifically. What could happen there? And a lot of things can happen, and it just doesn't involve workplace violence in an active shooter type situation. But we go over every type of scenario, every type of situation that can occur at their business and how to deal with that situation, whether it's weather related.
Of course, it would work for
Yes,
weather too, yeah.
Exactly. Chemical spill, up to an active shooter or a robbery, anything criminal in nature. We walk through it step by step and how to develop some sort of protocol on how to deal with those situations.
Okay. And I think probably one of the things that stood out to me that made the most sense, they say it's not common sense till somebody points it out to you.
Exactly.
And I felt like this sitting in on your workshop was that you come in and you teach these people how to help you,
Exactly.
which I never thought about, but that's
Yes.
a critical component.
Absolutely. Their emergency response plan,
Right.
and the planning of that, usually, and we encourage them to include the police department as well as the fire department. Like, for example, if there was a workplace violence issue, if there was an active shooter type of situation, we want to go over our tactics with them,
Right.
to make sure they know exactly what we're doing, what our goals are, to stop that active shooter situation from occurring, to slow it down. So we give the businesses and individual strategies on how to react when law enforcement arrives.
Right. Well, you talked about other things that I didn't think about, I guess, until you're in that situation.
Sure.
You don't, but where are areas that you can go in the business and lock yourself down? Or evacuation plans, and how those
Exactly.
evacuation plans, again, go back to what you just talked about, whether it's a weather-related emergency, whether it's an active shooter, whatever it is.
Yes.
But I thought one of the best was you ask everybody to provide a list to the police department of people to contact and
Yes.
cell phone numbers.
Yes.
So that way, people who could in the building contact you and let you know what was going on, you'd be so much better prepared for
Yes,
that.
absolutely. And how their plan is developed, we react off their plan. And as long as a business has a plan, it's going to make them that much safer in reacting to whatever situation is handed to them at that point. And we react off that. We know exactly where their staging areas are outside
Right.
of the business. We know exactly who to contact. We know who to call, who the primary people are that we need to notify. And it works hand in hand.
And it makes a difference.
Absolutely. And also, we become more familiar with their business as well.
And that's a key point.
Yes.
Sergeant Kuiper, thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you
going
for
over the
having me.
protocols. And we want to take this opportunity together to encourage any business watching to get involved with
Yes,
this
ma'am.
because it's all about community safety.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and stay tuned. We'll be right back.